You know, it's a funny thing, how a promise can totally change its meaning, even when the words stay exactly the same. So today, we're going to dive into one of the most important promises in the United States, the Oath of Allegiance. It's what new citizens swear, and we're going to see how its power is being reshaped, not by changing the text, but by changing the entire world around it.
And really, at the heart of this whole story is this one powerful phrase. For generations, new Americans have sworn this, to bear true faith and allegiance. It's a huge commitment, right? But what does that allegiance really demand? And more importantly, is that demand about to get a lot more specific?
And that right there brings us to the central puzzle we're tackling today. And look, this isn't just some hypothetical thought experiment. The legal ground underneath this oath is literally shifting as we speak. So let's get into it and see what's really going on.
Okay, so first things first. We need to get a baseline. Let's understand the oath as it is right now. What are new citizens actually promising when they raise their right hand?
So you've got to understand, this is not just some nice ceremony. Legally speaking, it's a really big deal. It's a formal declaration that's written right into U.S. law, specifically the Immigration and Nationality Act. It's the final make-or-break step to becoming a citizen. It's a sworn promise of loyalty.
So what are they actually saying? Well, the oath really breaks down into 4 big promises. First, you have to renounce allegiance to your old country. Second, you promise to support and defend the Constitution. Third, and here it is again, you promise to bear that true faith and allegiance. And finally, you agree to certain service obligations if the law ever calls for it. It's the whole shebang, really. A very comprehensive vow.
All right, so we've got our baseline. Now, here's the twist. In 2025, 2 pretty significant bills get introduced. And the crazy part is, they don't change a single word of the oath. But they might just change everything about what it actually means.
So yeah, these are the 2 bills right at the center of our story. One of them is all about redefining who is a citizen from the moment they're born. The other one, it takes aim at dual nationality. And both of them, in their own ways, are basically trying to write a much stricter definition of allegiance into law. Let's break down that first one, the Constitutional Citizenship Clarification Act. What it's really trying to do is reinterpret the 14th Amendment. Essentially, it says, hey, just being born on U.S. soil, that's not enough to be a citizen if your parents aren't citizens or permanent residents themselves. It's really trying to tighten the very definition of who gets to be an American from day one.
Okay, and then there's the second bill, the Exclusive Citizenship Act. And this one, wow, it is way more direct. It's proposing to outlaw dual citizenship completely. It would force Americans who hold another passport to make a choice. Either you renounce your foreign citizenship, or you could risk losing your U.S. one. It's a huge deal.
So you're probably wondering, okay, but these bills are separate from the oath, so how do they actually change it? Well, this is where it gets really, really fascinating.
The key idea here is that the words of the oath itself, they aren't changing one bit. It's the legal context all around it that's in flux. Think of it like this. The oath is this solid, unchanging rock in the middle of a river. But these new laws, they're changing the course of the entire river around it. The promise is the same, but the legal framework that gives it all its power, that's what's being totally altered.
Let's get really specific for a second. Take that phrase, renounce allegiance. Right now, when you take the oath, that's a personal promise you make. But if the Exclusive Citizenship Act becomes law, suddenly that promise transforms into a hard and fast legal requirement, a rule with actual penalties. Your vow is no longer just a vow. It becomes a legally enforceable mandate to have one and only one citizenship. See the difference?
So as you can imagine, these proposals have kicked off a massive, fierce debate. And it's not just about legal details. It's about the very nature of American identity. It's about what it even means to be loyal to a country in the 21st century. So on one side of the argument, you have the proponents. They look at these bills and see them as a totally necessary step. They argue it's all about reaffirming the gravity of the oath. They believe citizenship shouldn't be something you just collect, you know? It should be a privilege that demands strict, exclusive loyalty, especially when you think about national security.
But then on the other side, you have the opponents, and they are raising some serious constitutional red flags. They argue that these proposals, especially the one that messes with birthright citizenship, could directly conflict with the 14th Amendment. And worse, they worried it could create this underclass of stateless people, born right here in America, but with no country to call their own. So, when you boil it all down, this is the core conflict, right? It's a clash between 2 really powerful forces. On one side, you've got the push to align the law with policy goals, things like immigration and national security.
And on the other side, you have these foundational constitutional principles and a whole bunch of established Supreme Court precedents.
And look, we're not just talking theory here. There are actual major Supreme Court cases on the line. Cases like Afroyim v. Rusk and Vance v. Terrazazas. I mean, these are the rulings that basically protect people from having their citizenship taken away against their will. The Exclusive Citizenship Act, it would create a direct constitutional challenge to these rulings. We're talking about setting the stage for a huge legal showdown.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a minute and look at the big picture here. Why does this kind of subtle shift in the legal background? Why does it matter so much for the future of U.S. citizenship?
Well, it matters because the very function of the oath is changing. It's shifting away from being just a personal moral promise, and it's becoming more of a reflection of evolving national policy. It's turning into a tool that enforces a much stricter idea of what it means to be an American.
This is a great way to see the whole landscape of allegiance now. You've got the oath's text, right there in the middle, totally unchanged. But look at all the things pushing on it from the outside. Birthright citizenship is being redefined, dual citizenship is being challenged, and the whole legal interpretation of what allegiance means is evolving. All of these pieces are squeezing that central promise, changing its shape.
Which leaves us with one final critical question. The words bear true faith and allegiance, they haven't changed a bit. But as the legal ground shifts beneath them, the meaning of that promise and the very definition of being an American is changing right before our very eyes. So what does it mean to swear an oath to a nation that is, itself, redefining the very terms of belonging?